Hey everybody, my name's Elizabeth. This is Museum Greg Reads, and today we're getting rid of some books. Okay, this is the second time I filmed this. I actually filmed this 2 weeks ago, and I got sick, and then when I went to edit the footage, it was corrupted, and then I got sick again. So yay, we're gonna try again because everything I filmed last time is now in slow motion. I live in a little postage stamp sized house that was built in 1952, and because of that, I don't necessarily have copious bookshelves, although I am planning on doing some built-ins in my living room, hopefully this year. But because of that, I have to purge books occasionally, even books that I loved. So today we're gonna go through, and I'm gonna go through kind of in categories. Some of these are books I've held on to for far too long. I've got some stuff left over from my undergrad, and I graduated in 2007. So why was I hauling these books across the country? I don't know, but it's time for them to go. So first up, we actually have a series that I'm unhauling that I've read and adored. I don't want anybody to think I'm unhauling these for any reason other than space on my shelf, and because I bought a special edition set of this book series recently. So these are actually going to go to a new home with a fellow booktuber. Katie's all booked because I want to share the Wayfarer love. This series is amazing. I only have 3 copies, but this is a 4-book series by Becky Chambers, which starts with The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. Then it's The Closed and Common Orbit, Record of a Spaceborne View, which made me ugly sob, and then finally The Galaxy and the Ground Within. I cannot rave about these books more, and I really hope Katie ends up loving them. In keeping with the oops, I bought special edition versions, we have Winter's Orbit and Ocean's Echo, both by Everina Maxwell. I enjoyed both of these so much that I actually bought special stenciled edge editions that were really beautiful, and I want to pass these along to somebody who's going to enjoy them. Next up, some special editions that really haven't quite made the cut for me. I got all 3 of these from Owl Crate boxes, so not books that I chose, but books that chose me, and unfortunately, they weren't my cup of tea. First up is The Ones We're Meant to Find by Joan He. This is probably the only science fiction book I've gotten from Owl Crate, which you'd think would be right up my alley. But unfortunately, this dystopian story of 2 sisters wasn't working for me. I got halfway through and I just frankly didn't care about the characters. I know people rave about this, and I know a lot of folks who really enjoyed it. It's just not for me. Then we have Witches Steeped in Gold by Sienna Smart. This is a Trinidadian inspired fantasy, and it just, maybe it was when I read it, it wasn't working for me. I know that the second book, I think it's probably a duology, but the second book's already out. I know that this is perfect for somebody, it's just not perfect for me. Finally, from these lackluster, for me, special editions, we have A Lesson in Vengeance. This is by Victoria Lee. This is dark academia. Not the biggest fan of dark academia. Frankly, I didn't even attempt to read this. It's got some really nice silver edging. It's got a completely flipped cover color-wise. Signed, not interested. Okay, I just immediately lied to you and I don't want to refilm it. So we actually have our last sort of special edition with this signed independent bookstore edition of Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. I don't get the hype for her. I really wanted to like this, but this isn't science fiction. This is literary fiction with a bit of time travel. I thought it was kind of boring. I didn't connect with anybody really. This one's nice because it came with some like fun little postcards, and there's some extra content at the end. Also, just doesn't need to take up space on my shelves. I'm never gonna reread this. Next up, we have a section of books that I have purchased for myself that I am never going to read. I'm just not. I don't know why I bought some of them. Some of them I do. I just need these out of my life because they judge me from my shelves because I'm not gonna pick them up. First up, we have Merry Little Meet Cute, which is by Julie Murphy and Sierra Simone. Bought this at Christmas time when everybody else did. kept hearing really lackluster reviews from people that I trust, and frankly, life's too short. So as with many of these books, off to the little free library you go. Next up is Tidelands by Philippa Gregory. I am really hit or miss when it comes to historical fiction. I think maybe because I studied history for so long. I'm not sure why, but I have to be in the right headspace, in the right mood, and sometimes even then, they're not really gonna be an exciting moment for me. So I think that this one just needs to find a new home. Here's a fun one. I'm terrible at used bookstores in that I pick up something that looks interesting and nowhere on it does it say that it's part of a series. And could I Google it in the moment? Could I look on Goodreads? Yes. Do I? No, I do not. And that's why I have Titan by Stephen Baxter. I got it when I was on a trip. It was at Goodwill for $2 and I said, that looks interesting. It's a sequel. I had this now for 2 years. Do I even know what the first book in this series is called? No, I don't. So it's gonna move on. And if I find the first one or I decide I want to pick it up again, it's really not a big hit to my pocketbook for this to go away. Next up is The Wall of the Sky and The Wall of the Eye by Jonathan Lethem. This I got in a blind date with a book, and it is a short story collection. These have been really big misses for me lately. I just don't think I'm enjoying them the way that I once did. And frankly, by the time I am back in the mood for them, I'm probably not even gonna remember I have this on my shelf. Next, we have an ARC that I got in a blind pull at my local bookstore where they did a ARC giveaway for Halloween that was horror and thriller themed, and that's The Getaway. This is by Lamar Giles. This is a YA horror. The premise sounded vaguely interesting, but again, I didn't get to pick this and it's not something that I'm really gonna read, but hopefully somebody's gonna get real excited to find this in a little free library. Now it's who the hell did I think I was? Because I've never been this person. I enjoy some fantasy. I'm not what you would call a heavy fantasy reader. So please explain to me why I have 4 Game of Thrones books. I didn't even make it past season 1 of the TV show. Who did I think I was? These have just been sitting on my shelves for nearly 15 years. They gotta go. Gotta go. Okay, now we've got a section of books that I've read before, and either I'm not gonna reread them, or if I am gonna reread them, I can just get a new copy. They're pretty easy to get a hold of. So we're gonna start with some recent reads, and that is The Light from Uncommon Stars. This is by Rika Aoki. This I read for the Trans Rights Readathon. It was really sweet and unique and hard to put a finger on and hard to describe. I enjoyed my time with it, but I'm not gonna reread it. I did win this in a Whatnot auction from the Roomies Digest. So some sentimentality, but at the same time, I'm not gonna reread it. So hopefully somebody else gets to take this really unique journey with an alien who owns a donut shop, a violin teacher who sold her soul to the devil, and a young trans girl who's just trying to find some family. Then 2 books by the same author. We have The Deep by River Solomon and Sorrowland by River Solomon. This is the first book by the author that I've read, and this is the last book by the author I've read, and I've read their entire catalog. I enjoyed both of these books. They were unique, they were interesting. I'm just not gonna reread them, I'm not gonna revisit them. And as much as I'd like to show them off as trophies, I just don't have the space. We got The Matzo Ball. Actually, I probably should have included this in my special editions because this does have a signed book plate in it. This was super fun. I read it for the Reindeer Readathon. I enjoyed having a Jewish Hanukkah take on the classic Hallmark style romance. Again, just not one I'm gonna revisit, but can't wait for more from Gene Meltzer. This was a fun time. I only have Crooked Kingdom. I loaned out Six of Crows to somebody and it never came back. And while I loved these books, frankly, if I'm gonna reread them, I'm probably gonna get the nicer copies to do that. And now I don't have a matching set anymore because Six of Crows has flown the coop and I'm only gonna be able to get the like TV show versions of them now. So I'm a big fan of classic, and a lot of my friends over the years have known that. And so I've had a few classics that have been gifted to me that maybe just weren't the most exciting editions of them, or books that I have read and I'm not going to really reread. The two that I still have in that sort of category, I think it's just time to let go of them. They both came to me in undergrad. I think these both came to me sometime in like 04, 05. So that's going to be Emma by Jane Austen, this interesting cover, and The Scarlet Pimpernel by Amuski Orsi. I never say this man's name, I just say The Scarlet Pimpernel. I loved this. I think this is a really underrated classic. I think more people should read this. And Emma's just not my favorite Jane Austen. So these strange library editions can go find a new home. Another recent read that you would have seen in my most recent wrap up, as sad as it was, is The Martian by Andy Weir. I had a great time with this. I laughed. I really enjoy his humor. The fact that I didn't remember any of this movie except for the poop potatoes made all of this a new adventure for me. Between this and Project Hail Mary, if I was going to reread one, it's going to be Project Hail Mary. And while I have the really nice pre-movie cover, this came from Thrift Books, and when I tried to remove their little tracking sticker, it got damaged. And this is what you'd see from my shelves, which I know is a vain thing to say, but why keep a book I'm not going to reread that is damaged on my shelf? So as much as I had a great time with this, it's time for it to go. Okay, this is the last of the fiction reads that are getting unhauled. And this, I have to preface, and then I was a late adopter of this much beloved franchise. I didn't watch the films for these until well after grad school. And I only really read these books in like 2019, 2020. And that's books 3 through 7 of the Harry Potter series. I enjoyed them. I didn't read 1 or 2 because I couldn't get into them. So I started at 3, where story really starts picking up. Had a good time. Don't think I'm ever going to reread them. And don't really want to support a transphobe on my bookshelf. So this is going to free up a lot of space. Next up is going to be a history section. I'm going to go through these quick. We have Sam Houston by James Howard, The Second World War by John Keegan, Texas Log Buildings, Folk Architecture by Terry Jordan, A History of Israel from the Rise of Zionism to Our Time by Howard Shar, A Concise History of the Middle East by Arthur Goldschmidt, The Arab-Israeli Wars by Chaim Herzog, and The War Against the Jews by Lucy DeWittowitz, Manual for Writers, the Chicago Turabian Style Manual, 7th edition, so vintage. So that's nearly 40 books off my shelf. That's pretty exciting. Add to it that there's a whole other box of absolute nonsense that I don't think you guys need to suffer through seeing, because they're either work-related books for past careers, like legal primers, those sorts of things, or like weird corporate gibberish books. So what do you guys think? Did I make a mistake getting rid of any of these, or do you agree with me? I'd love to hear your thoughts about what I've gotten rid of down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this and my strange unhaul logic, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you want to see more from this weirdo, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I try to release content somewhat regularly. I've had a little bit of a chaotic life lately, so it's slowed me down a little bit, but I've got at least 2 videos that I'm working on right now and another one that I'm going to film right after this. So there's more coming. It's going to be really exciting, and we've got some fun stuff happening in June. That's all I have for you this time. I'm sure it's going to be a long video, and I'm sorry for that. So until next time, bye guys.